I guess President Trump is expecting all the world records to be on his side and getting all the awards. But we saw how the Defense Department became the Department of War. This is not too peaceful. This doesn't sound too peaceful. But again, as the same thing comes as we talk about Donald Trump and some ways of his, I don't know, real big steps, let's say talking about nuclear tests, that's very Trump style, let's say, talking about nuclear tests. That also doesn't sound too peaceful. But on the other hand, for President Trump, this looks absolutely different. From his standpoint, the Ministry of War signals that the United States are ready, that the United States are not playing games, that if someone even thinks about attacking the United States or doing something with the United States or doing something to the United States military. Let's remember that the United States military are all over the world and only 40,000 people in the Middle East. Only there we can see that there are 40,000 American troops. So American Army, American Navy is all over the place. So anyone who might even think about doing something to those servicemen or to the United States, to territory of the United States, the blast will come immediately because that's the Ministry of War. It's ready for war. It's not merely for defense. It's ready for war. So President Trump wants to signal that, first of all. And also, we should remember what is happening in the Caribbean. Although right now it seems like the pressure is slowly becoming less intense on Maduro, on Nicolas Maduro, the dictator of Venezuela. But still, the U.S. Navy are there. The U.S. Navy is in the Caribbean. The U.S. Navy is quite close to Venezuela, and they are ready to act if something happens. And also for President Trump, this is a way of signaling the American people that President Trump is fighting for them. President Trump is fighting with narco-terrorists, because right now this is what the Maduro regime is called. The Maduro is named as the head of a narco-terrorist cartel, Tren de Aragua, in Venezuela. And President Trump is, let's say, at war, but with narco-terrorists. So it's not a full-fledged war, but he is protecting Americans, protecting the American people. So it's all about a signaling to anyone or everyone or anyone who might even think about attacking the United States that the answer would be swift, the answer would be harsh, the answer would not leave those who try to attack the United States standing. So for President Trump, it's extremely important to give those signals, to give those, just like it's important for him. Let's look at his place of work. Let's look at the Oval Office, the president's Oval Office, and there are many photographs of how Oval Offices looked before. They were more or less the same. Let's say the colors could be different, but there has never been that much gold, that many portraits, that many golden elements as right now in the Oval Office, the flags and all that. So it's also a signal. It's a way of signaling the power, the might of the Oval Office, the gold of the Oval Office, the richness of the United States. It's all about signaling. And President Trump is trying to say that, yes, he stopped 8 wars and he's about to stop the 9th war. And he continues talking about Russia's war with Ukraine as the 9th war that he will stop. And he's signaling that nobody should even think about trying to attack the United States, because although the United States are so peaceful, they are not starting wars. But if they understand that there is a threat to national security, there's a threat to American military, there is a threat to American sovereignty, to American land, then the response will be horrendous and no one will stay standing, let's say, and definitely the United States will attack and attack swiftly and attack harshly. So these are all about signals. And at the same time, President Trump believes that what is happening within the United States borders has nothing to do with anyone. So, for example, the Nobel Peace Committee that should award a Nobel Peace Prize to President Trump, as he himself believes, and as a lot of people nearby President Trump believe, they shouldn't look at what is happening inside the United States. For example, the ICE raids, the raids against illegal immigrants, et cetera, or the protests against Trump. No, it's all about stopping wars, and it's all about preventing a war or preventing anything happening to the American personnel outside of the United States and to the American land. And it's all about signaling, like the Golden Oval Office or the Ministry of War. It's all about signals for President Trump. For him, symbolism is extremely important.
Alexandra, the yes Senate voted on a compromise final bill to extend government funding, taking an important step toward ending the longest shutdown in U.S. history. The legislation will now be sent to the House of Representatives. What are the key provisions of the compromise bill approved by the Senate? How does this bill aim to prevent the longest government shutdown in U.S. history?
Well, for now, this is a real compromise, and that kind of compromise that might not last too long. Because actually, the provisions that we see there, they are not about the ACA, the Affordable Care Act, the main point that was of interest for the Democrats. Because the Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare, as it is known, it previews some subsidies for for all Americans, and for anyone who is buying Obamacare and who is under Obamacare's auspices, let's put it this way. Those subsidies are coming to an end at the end of this year. The Republicans promise to negotiate as soon as government opens up. They promise to negotiate new subsidies, new ways of Americans of using the Obamacare, or in general the healthcare system, new ways of getting healthcare for the Americans. And as of now, the subsidies are extended only until January 30th. So if up until January 30th, they don't come to a conclusion, there can be a new government shutdown. So it looks like right now we are seeing a small break. It's just a break for the holidays. I suppose it's exactly like that, because the Thanksgiving holiday is coming. The Thanksgiving, the last Thursday of November is coming, and Thanksgiving is known as a holiday when Americans fly to see their loved ones, and families coming together, and people driving or flying or going on trains from one part of the country to the other just to see their parents, their relatives, their loved ones. And this is a real important holiday for the Americans. And then comes Christmas, of course, another extremely important holiday for the Americans. And it seems like Congress and Democrats and Republicans basically came together just to give the Americans this short break up until January 30th. Because there's not enough time to negotiate new subsidies. There's no enough time to negotiate a new healthcare plan. Maybe I'm being negative here. We should be more positive. Maybe by January 30th, they will come up either with a new plan, or they will come up with, again, just prolonging the ongoing plan until, for example, the end of 2026. Maybe this will happen. Or we will see another government shutdown after January 30th. That's also possible, and that's very much possible. Although, we should remember one thing. At the beginning of the shutdown, and we discussed it with you, at the beginning of the shutdown, Americans didn't know who to blame. Basically, it was 30, more or less. 30% blame for Democrats, 30% blame for Republicans, 30% blame for both parties. So that's how Americans answered those polls. Whom do you blame for the government shutdown? Right now, after 40 days of government shutdown, most Americans blame the Republican Party. So it doesn't look good for the Republican Party and for Donald Trump. And that vote that happened on past Tuesday, the vote for governors in Virginia, in New Jersey, the mayor of New York, and some other parts in some other parts of the country, also votes happened. It showed that Democrats are getting the ground and they are really winning, at least in those democratic, we should say more democratic states. But still, it was, if not a harsh blow for the Republicans, but the Republicans felt it. So right now it feels like for the Republican Party, the situation is not that good. At least it's worse than 40 days ago, that's for sure. So we understand that there might be a new government shutdown on January 30th because the main point, healthcare is not, that doesn't have, they didn't provide any decisions on healthcare. The Democrats or the Republicans, the Democrats want to see Obamacare prolonged. That's what they want to see. The Republicans, they want to see Obamacare canceled. So neither party offered anything new. Will they offer anything new by January 30th? I don't know. I'm not sure because there's too little time. Maybe they will just prolong it for another year. That's also possible. But maybe it's just a break until a new government shutdown.